I'm John McFarlane, Head of Creator Engagement, and we are here for episode 7 of the official Sea of Thieves podcast. And I'm with a bunch of completely fresh faces, apart from...
I'm grizzled and old.
There we have, to my left, I have Steve Dillon, who's game designer. I've got Mike Chapman, a returning veteran on the podcast. We've got James Bowden, who's our social media lead, Joe Clifford, who's our senior community manager. But just before we get started, I do the usual thing of letting people know that if you are listening to this, you can watch us on youtube.com/Sea of Thieves. And if you are watching us, but maybe you're traveling somewhere and you want to listen to us on your way, then we are available on any reputable podcast app. And if you want to get your question answered, I know we've got a bunch of questions that are coming in today from social that we're going to answer. Remember, use SOT Podcast on any of our social channels, particularly Twitter, because that's what we end up looking at. So basically go use it on Twitter. Anyway, let's get on with it. And as usual, we go around and ask how everybody's doing. And as you're standing in for who I would usually go from clockwise, Joe, you're going to be first up. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Excited to be on my first podcast.
Yeah, so
super exciting.
For folks who don't know you and what you do, you want to...
So, quick TLDR is I look after all of our community managers and volunteer moderators across our discursive spaces. So if you're on Discord forums, Steam, any of that, you're probably going to find me doing all the pings to let you know what's going on in the game. I work with our partners as well in terms of relations and safeguarding. And then all the rest of it's reporting and stuff like that no one wants to hear about. And
then your life, what you're doing in general.
We're straight in with the heavy-hitting topic.
What's been happening lately?
Well, we moved a few months ago to get up here to be closer to the studio. So I feel like we've only just finished decorating and I'm never moving again, ever in my life. It's just... So it's been a bit chaotic in terms of home life for now. But
it makes the commute easier.
It does make the commute a lot easier. It's much better than being 3 hours down south.
What is your commute now?
Half an hour. Just enough time for a coffee and a wake up in the car.
Okay.
Much better.
It's pretty good.
Not enough time for breakfast now.
No time for breakfast.
What about in the car? Are you do you listen contently to something, or are you like a singer?
True crime podcasts.
I like true crime podcasts. Oh, yeah. To Live and Die in LA and stuff like that. Have you watched that? It's really good. It's a really good one. It's really morbid. I do it while I'm rowing.
It's like, what a way to start the day, like morbid podcasts.
You listen to true crime podcasts while you're rowing?
Yeah.
Is that a rowing machine, or I'm imagining you out in a canoe,
Birmingham canals,
down the river?
Wasn't that a scene from American Psycho? Someone on a rowing machine.
Yeah, it is.
Sweat.
Listening
to the true crime podcast.
Yeah. Is it?
It feels like it should be.
I always feel like your morning routine would be very like that as well, like the American Psycho
Peel
stuff.
off
Yeah. If my face is puffy, I'll put on an ice mask.
That is me.
Yeah.
Oh no!
I'm going to be on the next true crime podcast.
What did we sign up for?
Can we leave?
We leave now.
It's okay. It was all in his head anyway, so it's fine. It's not incriminating. Just don't let them find that note.
Is that spoilers? Is that spoilers for American Psycho? Sorry.
Well, to be fair, it's hotly debated if it's actually in his head.
Oh, okay, all right.
Was that 90s? I think it was 2000.
Early 2000s?
I think it's okay.
It's quite old.
It's safe
gone.
now.
All right.
It's safe.
Someone dropped a Final Fantasy spoiler.
We can't go there. I'm very well. I had a week away last week. I went to Greece. Thankfully, lucky enough to actually escape and navigate the peril of the airport. And it's been a nightmare for a lot of people. So that was a nice little break to get away with the family. And work-wise, it's all a bit of a blur with the Shrouded Deep. The team's worked incredibly hard on the Shrouded Deep, releasing the Veil of the Ancient Voyage we've been working on for some time, and then spinning the plates with all the exciting stuff that we've come in this year. So there's so much that the team is working on simultaneously. There's so much to check in on and work with the team on. Really feels like we're firing on all cylinders. So I'm glad I had that break last week because I'm going to need it, I think.
Did you do anything exciting in Greece? Any kind of historical things?
Little bits, yeah. Went to the Venetian harbour, went to the Maritime Museum, saw some ancient ships. Just hung out with the family, went out for some nice meals, cooked barbecue. It was lovely.
That sounds very nice.
Thank you.
Steve.
Hello.
The Steve.
Steve.
The Steve. Obviously, we've seen you in videos prior to this, but this is your first time in the podcast.
It is, yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. It's very nice to be here.
And
Finally.
but if people haven't picked up on you in previous videos, you want to give a rundown on what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a designer, primarily these days focused on adventures. Before that, what didn't my team do? No, our team primarily focused on sort of the monthly, the voyages, onboarding improvements, a whole kind of a jack of all trades sort of team, I think. But at the minute, primarily focused on sporting adventures. Obviously, I was not lead. That's the wrong word, but basically Adventure 1 Shrouded Islands we did. I kind of took that with many others but to completion, and then now I assist until my next one is due with all the other adventures.
What number is your next one?
6.
6.
Steve's also incredibly modest. Some of the community favourites like Reaper's Runs, Fort of the Damned, so many of the monthly voyages that we did and experiences we built with emissaries. Like Steve has been on the front line working hard with the game design team. So Steve's worked on some incredible content across the game. So and his first podcast, the first of many. It's great to get him in here.
Yes, yeah. And what you been up to life wise?
I feel like I just keep copying you. No breakfast, but I've just moved. I've moved not too long ago, and my life is consumed by painting and decorating, and I am beyond sick of it. I can't even pretend at this point. I'm so sick of it.
You got impressive displays though, haven't you?
I do.
Yeah.
But the worst part about it is my office is the room we have to do last because there's so much stuff in it.
Okay.
So I'll have to move it at some point. But yeah, just that really.
What shades are you in your house?
Grey.
How many shades of grey?
Literally, no, I'm not even kidding. That's not even me being funny. Every room in the house is grey. It's very annoying. Except my room. My room is going midnight blue.
Ooh.
Yes.
And James.
Hi.
You know what's coming now.
Oh, right, so I just have to... Okay,
Yeah.
I don't get any
You
special...
don't get the
any
question.
special.
okay.
Is this your first time in the podcast?
First time on the podcast, yeah. Although I have to put these all up on YouTube and normally subtitle them, so this is going to be a very surreal experience, and I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to speak clearly for my own benefit. So my first time on the podcast, obviously I was on a weekly stream back when we were doing those. But for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm social media lead, so that covers all of our social platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I'm blanking on what social platforms are now. Instagram, and obviously most recently like TikTok. Our TikTok's been live for like just over a year now, and we've got over 400,000 followers. So if you're one of them, thanks. So it's a lot of fun, coming up with content to go across channels, obviously working out how to promote the game content, but also coming up with fun ways to engage with the community, and having some back and forth with people in the community is always fun. It's always a happy time, and coming up with contests to infuriate them, like Sot Shot and everything. It's good fun. In terms of what's going on with me, also taking pictures of ducks.
Ducks, yeah.
That's an important part of my
Premium duck
job.
content.
If you don't follow the Rare channels, the studios recently had some work done, and we got the new pond, and a duck moved in and built a little nest, and recently had a little clutch of ducklings. So a whole bunch of my job is lying around on the decking with my camera, taking photos of the ducks. But yeah, it's a varied job.
Have you named any of them?
We've not named the ducks yet. I saw someone suggest some names, but they were all puns, so I disregarded them.
Yeah.
Dukling.
Yeah, I was
Duke-
literally
Dukeling.
thinking Duke as soon as I thought duck.
I want to bring them inside and make them inside ducks. I've been told that's not
You're gonna
allowed.
go-
Right.
Darkwing Duke.
Darkwing Duke.
Darkwing Duck reference. Can we go there? Is that...
We're going to get some good comments now, aren't we, on what to name the
Really?
ducklings?
I mean, that's, yeah,
You do a
hopefully.
competition.
Stop reading my social media stuff.
Stop doing his job for us, honestly.
But then you also have that reactive, like on the day stuff as you see fun things come up, and obviously memes and stuff. So it's good. It's a varied job. In terms of what I'm doing out of my job, I feel ill-prepared given that, I don't have a leaky roof or holidays or anything to talk about. But, I can underline everything by saying I have a 3-year-old. So a lot of my time is chasing him around.
Other than coming to pick me up from the train station.
Other than picking you up from the train station, yeah.
That's very kind.
When I'm like stranded. James, please.
Speed dial.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the meat of this. So we're gonna go in to talk about obviously the updates that have just previously come out there. As of recording this, have just come out last week. So, but first of all, Mike, if you could give us a kind of run up of the lore from kind of when we started Adventures to where we are now.
Straight into it.
Straight
into it. Dim the lights. Dim the lights. Candles on the table. Let's get ready.
Put some stuff.
I think as a backdrop to all of this, A Pirate's Life was a huge event last year, both for us as a game, but also in the world of Sea of Thieves, with what happened with the Castaway coming to the Sea of Thieves and revealing and allowing pirates to travel to this world of the Sea of the Damned. So the backdrop to everything that's happened, which I'll run through, is the fact that both the Pirate Lord and Captain Flameheart have seen all of this happen. So Flameheart has seen pirates access the Sea of the Damned and been made aware that the memories of pirates can be made real again in this supernatural realm. This has started a supernatural arms race between the Pirate Lord and Captain Flameheart. And Captain Flameheart is moving his plan forwards to become the would-be king of the Sea of Thieves. So, as players know, Flameheart is the big floaty head in the sky.
Not anymore, he's not.
Not anymore, he's not. So, as part of his plan moving forwards, he has disappeared. And you actually hear the sound of his head disappearing in that very first adventure trailer. And the NPCs of Golden Sands went missing, and the island itself became shrouded in this supernatural fog. And the Reapers are all part of this, using the power of the Dark Relics. And it's really Captain Flameheart and the Reapers working in tandem to use the Sea of the Damned to bring about Flameheart's return. And the Dark Relics is these magical items that allow characters to basically bind the energy of souls to these objects and bring things back from the Sea of the Damned, as players have seen in the Fort of the Damned experience. This is what Flameheart is trying to do now. They're trying to bring Flameheart's soul back from the Sea of the Damned. So the progression of this led to the memories of these Spanish forts being pulled from the Sea of the Damned. And that's where the Golden Sands characters have been held captive. And obviously, Pirates players got to go and break those characters out of the cells. And now with the Shrouded Deep and how the Shrouded Ghost is all part of this is focused around an object that Flameheart needs to eventually come back from the Sea of the Damned. He's all locked behind this object called the Veil of the Ancients. So it brings in the story of the Ancients of the Sea of Thieves. So when you're sailing around the ancient isles, you see all these ancient ruins. These are the hallmarks of these ancient peoples that used to sail in the Sea of Thieves. Who they were, where they went, where did they all disappear to? This is all part of this ongoing story. And we've essentially revealed that the reason why the Shrouded Ghost even existence was doubted was the fact that it was moving between the worlds with the power of the Veil of the Ancients. And in our most recent adventure, after the Golden Sands NPCs have been freed and they're going to return to Golden Sands Outpost, we've seen this race between Bell and Captain Flameheart to claim the Veil of the Ancients for themselves and battling the Shrouded Ghost. And the Veil itself, what it will be used for, now it's been powered up by these jewels, these Veil stones in the Pirate Legend Voyage, what it will be used for will be revealed in time as Flameheart's plan moves towards a dramatic conclusion towards the end of the year. So we're slowly, episodically revealing this ongoing story between Captain Flameheart's conquest of the Sea of Thieves and how the Ancients are going to be part of this ongoing story.
Are you trying to say
a bit rambly, but I hope that made sense.
We've been playing into Flameheart's hands all along? Is that the...
If players look back, especially when you think about the story of Duke and how that relates to Wanda and the Dark Brethren, which are another kind of set of adversaries who will remain in the shadows for now, like Duke has unwittingly brought about what the Reapers wanted to achieve and how that relates to Captain Flameheart. Yeah, there's lots of little clues if you go back to some of the old monthly voyages that we did, some of the things that you were asked to do, what Duke was personally asking players to do. It all relates back to Captain Flameheart.
Ooh. I feel like it's like story time. I like sitting down here and just listen to that.
I'm sense checking myself to make sure I'm not revealing what's coming. Like Steve is like, as he mentions, hard at work on Adventure 6. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. I've seen some of that. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
really. I'm really, really excited. I think it's a really cool. Obviously, I'm not going to say what we're doing, but like it's gonna be really cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
But at the moment, we are on 3.
3.
Which is The Shrouded Deep. And so I'm just going to lay this kind of question out to everybody here. So we've obviously, that we released that in where we are filming right now last week, but it'll be a couple of weeks before you see this. So it'll have been in players' hands for a while. What kind of happened in it? Because obviously we're not going to, at this point, we're not really spoiling it for folks. It'll be coming to the end of that. And what were some of the design challenges there? And also from the community standpoint, like what are some of the things we've seen pop up around this and how it relates to kind of homage looking back at one of our first updates and whatnot. And I'll go to Steve, you go first.
Where to start?
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say what we kind of wanted to emulate and pay homage to with the Shrouded Deep was, of course, our first update, The Hungering Deep. Obviously, this huge fan favorite of a time when Sea of Thieves was still arguably in its infancy, right? We hadn't been out that long. And of course, for those who don't know that, it was this event that asked for everyone to come together and essentially uncover this secret. And of course, spoiler, the secret was this hungering one, the Meg sleeping. And you had to, Merrick gave you a new instrument. And then you got did you get the new shanty then, or had you already got some of the Megalodon? I think that was a reward, wasn't it?
You couldn't select it, but it was triggered when you carried the shanty.
That was it, yeah. And one thing I was laughing at, there was some dialogue we've got in the Shrouded Deep where Merrick makes reference to the first one, where he's basically saying, oh, don't worry, you don't need to carry it. Like, because back then we didn't have shanty selection. It was random, wasn't it, when you just started your instrument, where of course now you can select whichever one you want. And he makes a kind of a joke about that, like, don't worry about it, because that was one thing. But I also thought that was quite part of the charm, because it was almost like a puzzle to solve. It was like players had to work out, they had to carry it.
Passing up the ladder was the fun thing.
Yeah.
Because you had to get someone on the ship so they can join in playing it, so you can scurry up and carry on.
And it was funny because I remember that actually had some, I don't know if this was before or after, but I remember watching someone have a similar, when they became a Pirate Legend, obviously when you stand above the entrance and you play and it plays the tune. Because of the Hungering Deep, players thought that they could carry the Pirate Legend tune, because of course you could if you really wanted to. And so that was really fun. I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but that kind of had like this weird bleed out effect where people were going all over the world carrying it. So I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, like for me, it's the scale of what we've delivered with this versus back then, I think is a really great testament of kind of where we've come in regards to like accounting for all of the players we currently have now versus back then, and just had the work involved, because as you said, like what some of the challenges, the Shrouded Deep in terms of like building it was, I think at least for me personally, and a lot of the stuff was mentioned, I've worked on a fair few things now, it was definitely at a very large scale, accounting for all of the potential things that can and do happen when playing Sea of Thieves. But I think having played it myself endlessly as well, whether or not it's in editor or on retail, on live servers, watching content creators play, like I couldn't be prouder or happier of the experience. That like it's always anecdotal, right? But obviously, when I first started, where I worked in community, and I still maintain a lot of watching social and stuff like that, and sentiment and that sort of stuff, and seeing like players who maybe played back then and for whatever reason have lapsed now, that they don't play anymore, there's other games, but then seeing us sort of paying homage to this great big event that kind of kickstarts this journey we've all been on, coming back and playing it and being like, oh, me and all my friends, we've got back together, and it's like the band's got back together, like literally, figuratively playing with the band, you know. So seeing that has been absolutely amazing. It's lovely.
What are like some of the design considerations we had, like looking back at what the Hungering Deep was, and then looking at the Shrouded Deep and saying like, what do we need to change here to make this easier?
Honestly, there's so much to talk about there. I just hearing Steve talk about the Hungering Deep. Then I still remember just after launch, the first meeting where we were discussing what we could do for our first update. And we've talked about this before, where we had a set of plans before we launched our game, and then, well, there's no real replacement to having real player feedback at scale and seeing how people are finding the game and what are the types of things that they want to see in the Sea of Thieves experience. So not surprising, really, that our plans didn't really line up with the appetite that our players, the things they were looking for in our game to make that content and that experience feel richer. So in many ways, the Hungering Deep, we look back on it with a sense of fondness in the same way that lots of members of our community do. It's a classic Sea of Thieves update. Like, that's the way I think we think about it. And I just remember that thought process with the Hungering Deep, where it was, we want to add something meaningful to the world in the Megalodon, and, having that instrument in there as well, but wrapping it in that storytelling and that fundamental design that sought to bring or encourage players to come together. With all of the downside that comes with that, but when it works, it reaches the highs that not many other types of content in Sea of Thieves can reach, because it feels like the story has become real. You're having this moment and this interaction between other players in the sandbox, and it's those, old term, but like it's a water cooler moment, right? You want to shout it from the rooftops. I can't believe this has happened. No game has ever made me feel like this before. And we even saw in our telemetry, our data, our insights back then, that there was less PvP across the whole Sea of Thieves world at that time. The seas became friendlier because there was a reason, a powerful kind of call to action to work with other crews. And that's always been something we've wanted to encourage in Sea of Thieves. Yes, PvP is a possibility, is Sea of Thieves, but you can also come together and work together. And, players have seen with their alliance system, you can work together, you can share gold. It's a big part of the way we think about our mechanics. So going back to the Hungering Deep, like paying homage to it or doing something similar, I think it's been in our minds for a few years. But like how we do that, how we take it to the next level, we knew we wanted to bring players together again, amplify that moment by having it part of this story that's unfolding, having it seamlessly linked to another often requested piece of content, which is the Pirate Legend Voyage, but then base it around 5 players across multiple crews, getting that multiple crew element in there, basing it around that, but taking the battle to the next level by bringing in the ghost ships, by having it set not just in the middle of nowhere, but basically a floating battle platform, but a floating galleon with cannons where you're fighting alongside American Belle. And I think it's been wonderful to see the kind of climactic nature of that battle land so well. And I say all of that knowing and acknowledging that there is a downside to it. To have that wonderful, powerful high that you remember forever, you've got to have the chance of it going badly. You've got to have the chance of the fiasco to have that awesome moment. But it's classic Sea of Thieves. So it's been a joy to go back to it. But as Steve alluded to, I think there's a pressure that comes with that. There's a lot of pressure on really delivering the right feel and the right mechanics and just getting that social gameplay working properly, because we knew we had to at least live up to the Hungering Deep and try and surpass it. So
yeah, I think that's as well. Like when I was assisting with it, I think that's kind of where my mind kept going to, because obviously I was here when we did that. So I kind of remembered sort of the feelings you had the first time you did it. So when you're building something and you're thinking about other things as well, you're always like, obviously you don't want to copy something. You kind of want it to have, I guess we always refer to it as the crescendo, right? Like as well as the like when you summon the Shrouded Ghost as well, you get the table slowly lighting and then the epic and it goes in the air. And like, to me, it kind of reminded me when we were working on the Glitterbeard stuff. It's almost like when you finish the ritual and then the summoning begins and Bell tells you as much as it's happening, get ready. And you, as a player, I remember like you think, oh wow, that was amazing, that was epic, but there's still more. Like, because then you continue throughout the fight, and again you get the really cool cameo towards the end, and it was like, yeah, I was just trying to, like, I always felt like for me when assisting with that, that's sort of what in my mind it was like, they think that's the epicness, but it's like, but then how do we just keep turning it up until the very end of it? And I feel like for me, we definitely done that.
And is there things that you feel like we've just looking through and seeing the feedback, and also just building like as we go with adventures, like, and the things that we're like learning, like what do you think some of the learnings are that we're taking away even just from the first 3 that we're putting into like 4, 5 and 6? Is there things that are key there?
I think firstly what would be good to hit as well is, until very recently we've always been calling the third adventure in an arc a finale. So our intention was always that Adventure 1 would establish what the story is, Adventure 2 would be an escalation, and then Adventure 3 really pays off that specific narrative arc. And all the arcs are linked. So as we go into Adventures 4, 5 and 6, the story's going in a slightly different direction. So seeing players kind of recognise that this one feels more epic, there's more gameplay scope there. It's great to see that land well, because that was very much a key part of our strategy, which was to build to this finale. We stopped calling them finales because it got a bit confusing on the team, so we just call them we all call them adventures, but we're still keeping to the structure of the third one in a sequence is always going to be a little bit more elaborate, so it's going to pay off lots of threads. What was your question, John? The original question? Sorry.
It was just that, like, as we've gone through, like, is there things that you feel like, we're going in like, oh, like either as we look to 4, 5 and 6, it's like we could tweak that because I think people are appreciating, I don't know, maybe more cutscene story bits or whatever throughout the adventures that people are really latching on to throughout the adventures that we want to go dial up or take feedback on for the next set. Like,
I think the biggest thing, and this is really a continuation from what we see with some of our tall tales, is like player contention is what we worry about. I think the Shipwreck Bay moment in Adventure 1 was received so well because of the way that the narrative delivered through those ghostly visions. Like we've seen in other tall tales before, that part of their storytelling always goes down really well. I think the fact that we set it on Shipwreck Bay and you get a lot of people crowding around one place, it does lead to overly negative encounters. It's not really. There's always a sense of it's a factor in Sea of Thieves. It's a core part of our design, but it wasn't really what we were trying to do with Adventure 1. With Adventure 2, of course, there was kind of more forts out there, and people were moving around the world, especially around that deed to move you around the different world regions. Again, with Adventure 2, I want to acknowledge it, the kind of the RNG, as the community call it, nature of finding the different NPC characters wasn't an aspect of the initial design. We played Adventure 2 nearing its release. It just felt like something was missing. It felt too lightweight. So we added these objectives to find the different NPCs, the different characters from Golden Sands, which really celebrates the story and what they've got to say about what's happening. So it was important from a lore perspective, but we couldn't basically resolve the issue in time that it was completely random. So that unfortunately led to rightfully negative feedback in the community. I think basically the two things to take away are, I think we're very aware and are going to be careful around player contention, bringing people together in overly, in a conflicting way when we're not intending it as part of the storyline. So we need to be careful there. And also any aspects that introduce RNG, especially in a time-limited adventure. Mm-hmm. They're probably the two biggest takeaways.
That's cool. And from the community, I'll go to you first and then we'll move over to James. But have you seen anything through like the channels that you're looking at around Shrouded Deep, like some of the comments around there or anything that you want to
Yeah, I mean, overall it's been received really well because we're taking this myth that people have known about and we're putting it in front of them, and it's a proper wow moment for our community. And touching on what Steve and Mike have said with the Hungering Deep update, we've got players that have been around for 3-4 years and they remember that update and they remember standing there with their little drum waiting for players to come along so that they could do it. And so the hype for them is already there because they can draw on those memories and that first experience. And as you say, it's taking it to the next level because you've got Belle, you've got Merrick, you've got this overarching narrative now. And then you've got that proper wow moment when the Shrouded Ghost pops up, and watching our content creators do it is incredible because they're all open crewing and they're finding these players and you can see them going, look, there she is. And it is an incredibly magical moment for that. And then obviously tying it into the new Pirate Legend Voyage and things, people are feeling really satisfied with the content that we've given them with this adventure because it is a moment in time for Sea of Thieves. And Adventure 1 and Adventure 2 have led up to this, but 3 really does give that wow moment. Plus, you've got a nice Ghost Fleet battle at the end, and we're all really missing Flameheart. I know none of them are saying it, but I know they're missing it. So yeah, as Mike's touched upon as well, you're always going to have those contentious things where putting players together, there's going to be conflict, and there is a risk versus reward with anything you do in Sea of Thieves. And player sentiment and player intent is always something that you can't even guess it. Like, I play a lot of Sea of Thieves, you cannot guess what another player's up to. There's no point. Whatever you think they're going to be doing, it's going to be the opposite. But we're bringing them together, and the majority of people, I think, are having these lovely experiences of meeting other players and creating those stories that we want them to take from our game. We give them a story, but they make their own off the back of it. And it's been really lovely to see the majority of people having that wow moment.
Yeah, I love the stories that we're seeing with players being brought together by the Shrouded Deep, but then they're going to do a fort together, or they're going to do Glitterbeard together, and and the community have rightfully asked, why the 5-player limit? Why just allow anyone to start it? And I think that 5-player choice, again going back to the Hungry and Deep, same reason why we made the choice back then. It's like the formal handshake between multiple crews, and you've almost got to have it there to make everyone think twice about maybe I do need to cooperate this time.
Maybe I shouldn't sink them.
And maybe I should trust that crew. And it just gets you over that kind of social hurdle. But then to see that little temporary social bond then go on to explore other content in Sea of Thieves, that's been wonderful.
We did it on day 1, and we were on a galley, and we spotted this sloop going back and forth, and they were dead wind, and we were like, we're never going to catch them. We're just going to have to wait here. And we finally pulled up behind them. I was shouting from the water, and they can't hear us. And as we got closer, we heard them on the mics go, we've just killed 4 megs. We've not done this to die now. And it was like, no, it's fine. We want to do it with you. Come on. And we had a great couple of hours just sailing around with them after that, because it is bringing people together, which is what Sea of Thieves has always been designed to do. You can get on and jump on with your crew, but it's about meeting those other people that are sailing the seas with you.
We've always talked about how, obviously, the world, the heroes of our world, are the pirates, the legends of our world. Obviously, yes, there is, of course, you've got your fan favorites, you've got your Bells, your Merricks, your Pendragons, who players no one who exist in this world, but at the heart of it, obviously, it's always been the players that we want. And with Adventures, obviously, we're now kind of literally putting them in the driving seat, like they are the ones who are working with Belle and Merrick. And one thing I've always thought was really special about the Shrouded Deep, and not just Shrouded Deep, I suppose everything we do is kind of what Yuz was saying about, like, you're making that choice to trust someone, that handshake. We've done this thing together, and it's like, well, what other adventures can we create together? What other stories can we make together? What other friends can we make together? Like, very from I suppose a selfish point of view, one of the things I've really enjoyed seeing from this is after the people have been finishing the Shrouded Deep, a lot of them have been like, oh, well, you're a galleon, we're a galleon, we need 8 people to go and unlock the mysteries of Glitterbeard. Should we go and do that together? And so going from this like experience to this experience and creating memories with these crews together, like when that's how it's playing out, like, you can't beat it. Like, there's nothing cooler than having this grand adventure with these people you've just met. And then, you see almost like jokes and memes about you, last time you logged on Xbox 360, you saw a friend last time online 5 years ago or something. It's like Sea of Thieves to me is kind of creating those friendships and those memories that in 10 years time, when you open up your console and someone isn't online anymore, you're like, oh, remember that time we went and summoned? It's it's really cool.
It's really cool. And James, anything from social you've seen that you think is a particularly standout moment?
Is this your polite way of saying you don't follow the Twitter?
I'm just opening up the...
Oh, okay. Obviously, we've seen, to echo what Mike said, we've seen so much like positivity on Twitter. But the thing that I've like most enjoyed about seeing the responses on channels, particularly Twitter, is people sharing those videos and those screenshots and all of that. And I think also to, again, go back to what Joe and Steve said about the escalation. One of my favourite things about this is, I'm saying this now because this is going to go out near the end of the adventure, so it's fine. But our gameplay trailer only showed the Shrouded Ghost spawning. And so players went in going, oh, cool, we're going to fight the Shrouded Ghost. And then, obviously, as you say, the thing they don't know is that when they get out onto the waves and they fight the Shrouded Ghost, all those ghost ships are going to swarm in. And like some of the screenshots and clips I've seen on Twitter of just the absolute anarchy of all of these ships, this massive shark, people have compared it to like the final tall tale of A Pirate's Life as well. And it's like, I think, again, one of the beauties of Sea of Thieves is those moments just happen. And just, you can go from 1 minute just pootling along into a nice sunset to just cannonballs flying everywhere and chaos and fire and sharks, and it's manic to be a part of, and it's incredible to see, and it's amazing to read the responses from people absolutely like loving being a part of it, and it's like you're part of this mad fight, and
the music
is so good. Yeah,
every time knocks it out of the park.
It's been really nice, and as Joe says, people just finally seeing the Shrouded Ghost and getting their little souvenir screenshots of it as it swims past. Well, it was really nice because when I did it at the weekend, the fight started in the day and transitioned into night, like as we were doing the fight. So where obviously the fins started like glowing, and it really gave the escalation an even greater sense of like grandeur. And also to your point on the ritual, I really love the way in the ritual you do it. And I know you said you can use it as a battle platform to fight the Shrouded Ghost, but we had 3 ships there, and it almost felt like back to your ships, and everyone's like diving off and leaping onto their ships, dropping the sails, sailing out, and it's like, it feels amazing. And like, I kind of love that it's happening for a bit, and it's gonna go away after the adventure, and then it's like, as you say, you'll always remember it as that moment in time of like, oh, that was amazing when we did that. That fight was so cool, and it was different to the Hungering Deep, because Hungering Deep, I remember distinctly, that ended up with 2 crews on 1 ship when I played it. Yeah. Whereas this was this mad 3-ship crazy fight, and it's like out more in open water, so the waves are mental. I've seen some people on Twitter saying like a storm rolled in and it made the ship even crazier. So yeah, obviously socials also had loads of people sharing screenshots of green tornadoes and with the Veil of with the Legend of the Veil voyage. So social's been a buzz. A buzz.
Well, talking about Legend of the Veil, you alluded to obviously the fact that the Shrouded Deep is the prequel.
It's the prequel, released at the same time.
So if you are hearing this and you haven't tried it and we've just spoiled loads for you, I would say that you should go and do the Shrouded Deep first and then move on to...
Ideally, if you can. I think it will flow nicely if you play them in that order, yeah.
So, talking about Legend of the Veil, what was our thinking as to why we wanted to start delivering Pirate Legend content now? Like, why now?
Well, I think having a way of play, a replayable mode of play for Pirate Legend is something that we've, I guess, wanted to create for a long time, and the amount of legends that we have in our game has been growing, quite rapidly, especially in recent years. So timing-wise, it felt right to really go back and do something that would have all the emotional impact, but would also be fundamentally replayable. So as our players will know, there's kind of 2 very different experiences on either side of a spectrum when it comes to quest design in Sea of Thieves. There's completely scripted, largely scripted and authored tall tale experiences. It's a roller coaster ride. It's a cinematic experience that aims to introduce you to all the key aspects of our lore, characters, give you these incredible moments that you want to talk about, but it's something that we're controlling as designers. And on the other side, going back to way before we ever launched the game, is replayable voyage system. So essentially a system where we can put in a set of parameters and it procedurally gives you a number of maps, picks the gameplay, a number of maps, a number of X's, you pay out based on your progression through the game. So quite a complex system that sits across X marks the spot maps, riddle maps, like putting all those rhyming couplets together. Obviously we've added lost shipment maps, got the vault maps. So every time you play those experiences, you know the flavour of gameplay you're going to do. You don't know where you're going to sail. You don't know what's going to happen along the way. It's just the reason to get out there on the waves. So that was quest design before Legend of the Veil. And then I guess a bit of a backdrop to that is Sea of Thieves at its heart has always felt like a bit of a choose-your-own adventure story, that it plays differently every single time. We've been inspired by experiences like that. So the idea of creating a hybrid of the two approaches, where it's got all the drama, all the emotion, the music building at the right moments, the characters giving you some awesome dialogue that really stirs you and gets you involved in the action, coupling that with something that feels fundamentally replayable, felt like a huge creative opportunity for us. And it felt like doing that as part of a new story exclusive to Pirate Legends felt perfect. So it's the culmination of essentially two very different systems and set of tools coming together, but really moving the story of Sea of Thieves forward. So bringing the ancients in, bringing the Veil of the Ancients, which is the object, into the voyage, and how that's part of our story. But yeah, it felt like the timing was right, and it allowed us to do something different that we hadn't done before. So it pushed quest design forward in Sea of Thieves as well, which is cool.
Sweet. And any kind of design like challenges around that in terms of like serious challenges around like when I think of it even from an engineering point and a design point, like some of the stuff is crazy in there.
Well, it's conceived as essentially it's a series of modules, like Lego bricks of gameplay that can be combined in different ways. From a design perspective, what was unique about this was the narrative still had to make sense. No matter which way these modules were stick together, it still needed to feel like a continuous story. I remember in our early tests, originally, the ending could be different each time. The ending could be just a different module. But kind of obvious looking back, playing that, it felt like it didn't really build to a satisfying climax. And the module that we did have, which was really starting to come together, which was the epic ghost ship battle, we're destroying the emplacement and the huge haunted fortress, that felt like that was going to become a thrilling climax. So we made that one always the ending module, and then kind of wrapped it all together, brought in the green tornado, this big supernatural storm as it's pulling this haunted fortress over from the Sea of the Damned. So yeah, I mean, at the core of it, it's like a tabletop RPG where modules can be combined in different ways. But yeah, trying to strike the balance between what's great about a tall tale, but hopefully can be evergreen content for our legend.
And we are getting really close to our time here, so I just want to get some community stuff in. I know, Joe, you had some questions from her.
I did.
Yes.
Which ones? Which ones do we want to throw out? Which ones? If we're running out of time,
do we have the names?
Mike, do you want to add a
alongside
chef's hat to the game? That was my favourite question.
That was the favourite one. We didn't tell you about this.
Someone
one
wanted a
earlier.
chef's hat.
Chef's hat.
I'll be honest with you. I saw that on Twitter. I saw that surface, and it did make me give this pang of regret inside. Of we talked about that, and we haven't done it yet. We totally should do it. It's very Sea of Thieves. It's very playful. We should totally do a chef's hat in Sea of Thieves.
We should. Confirmed.
Yeah,
Confirmed. World exclusive. Confirmed.
we haven't concepted it. We haven't built it, but there's an intent.
That's where we'll be going after this.
We should go do that. We should go. It'd be perfect.
Devil's Roar is the one I want to ask about.
Yeah.
Obviously, Devil's Roar was brought in with this massive wow moment, and there's a player sentiment that it's unloved by players right now. And how do we make it a go-to destination? Or are there intentions that you can talk about? I suppose I should tag on the end.
What's the tourist board in the Devil's Roar?
What is the tourist board proposition? How do we make it 5-star destination for that galley when you're on your holidays?
No.
Without putting big corks in the volcano.
Yeah, all-inclusive resorts. Yeah, beautiful.
Morris Peak, the go-to.
Yeah, Devil's, before it was an area full of like volcanic activity and earthquakes, it was a concept It was in their first year, right? So it was as part of that same process where we were designing Hungry and Deep and laying out a roadmap for the first year. It came from that place of, wouldn't it be interesting if we had perilous seas? So a perilous sea that you would never start in, but it would allow players to opt in to a different set of gameplay challenges, but for greater reward. With all the problems of sailing over there and the time to get into those encounters. But that was a fundamental part of the design. It wasn't the core world, but it was an additional kind of extra region you could opt into. So generally feel good about what we released with the Devil's Roar. I think naturally, as we've added new content over the years, the respecting players' time, not having to have them sail over there, ensuring that there's as much as we can, and I know we don't always get this right, but having the difficulty right that new players can engage with it. As players have seen most recently with the Sea Forts, it's a bite-sized 15, 20-minute experience, as a most recent example. We're always trying to think of how we can get players to the fun as fast as possible without sacrificing what makes Sea of Thieves special. Like we're not going to add fast travel. We're not going to let you load in and choose your outpost. That sense of randomness is key to our design. I think as a result of that, not deliberately, features have generally culminated in the core world regions rather than the Devil's Roar.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we would ever remove the Devil's Roar. That doesn't mean that we look as developers on the Devil's Roar unfavourably. I think as we look to the future, there are opportunities that we will look at, have spoken about making the Devil's Roar a more attractive place and a more attractive place to go adventure, but in the spirit of what it was first conceived to be, which is a perilous sea. So I'm going to go there, I'm going to get some higher, more advanced gameplay challenges, but I get greater rewards.
Yeah.
And everyone who's in that region are there for that purpose. I think there's more we can do there. Nothing immediately planned, but the Devil's Roar is not going anywhere. There'll definitely be opportunities in the future to do more with that space. I think every time I go into the Devil's Roar, I still love the spectacle of that place, of seeing the rocks, and just the atmosphere in there is just, the art team did an incredible job with it, the earthquakes. I think we went a little bit too far at launch with how frustrating it was, to say the least. But I love that region, the team loves that region, and yeah, we definitely want to do more in the future.
I'm the same. I like sailing in a part of the world that's also trying to kill me as players are trying to kill me. I genuinely have a lot of fun in that place because it's just chaotic.
It does tend to be if I've got a ship chasing me,
to
beeline to the roar, because there's a better chance of them just getting messed up whilst they're behind me.
Looking at a volcano like, take care of him, go on.
Yeah, go him. Oh no! There was just a clip on Twitter this week of someone just watching a rock just smack them in the face, which I enjoyed greatly. Yeah.
And it also doesn't mean that we wouldn't add more, not just perilous seas, but different types of world experiences in the future. I think the Shores of Plenty, the Ancient Isles, the Wilds, that is our core world. And we want that. We want this sense of, you as a pirate, you almost don't need the world map anymore. You're this great navigator. You know where everything is. It's familiar. And these are well-worn locations that you love going back to. We never want to lose that. But having experiences you can opt into that give you different challenges, just completely new world experiences outside of that core world is something we are discussing.
It's actually funny you say that, the world, the amount of people I've seen sailing this last week going, there's a brig. Oh, it's not a brig. It's the killer whale. They get close and they're like, oh no, hi Merrick.
Merrick's terrible parking job.
Yeah.
Can I just stay?
But I've loved those world changes. And it's been really fun to see players react to those.
Well, that's the advantage of it, right? Is people know what that canvas is. You change one small thing, and
they know.
You change a flower, or we move a rock, and we do it deliberately, and things build up over time.
What does it mean?
It's one of the advantages of Sea of Thieves, and why live service is. It sounds like a cold strategy, but live service just allows us to storytell through our updates, storytell with our world, and it's constantly evolving. And those examples are why it works so beautifully for a game like ours.
So just to wrap things up here, I want to touch quickly on Community Day.
Yes.
Details.
You want detail? Oh,
I want details.
Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna lay it all on YouTube because I
Saturday. The
15th of May.
I was going to say 14th.
Dang it.
So someone get a calendar out.
Yeah, so it's Saturday the 14th of May. we're going to be having another community day. It's going to be another big event in the sea. So there's going to be another free flag for players that log in, another free emote. And again, we're going to be doing the hashtag drive on Twitter. And this time there's going to be a blanket gold boost to all players, but then the hashtag this time is going to boost renown. So any players that really need to race to renown 100 before the season ends and get that flower crown, 96 guys.
What a world.
It's all about the flower crown.
You just need to get to 96,
Just get to 96.
Then you can log off. But yeah, so if you join in and either tweet using hashtag Sea of Thieves Community Day or retweet anything that is using that hashtag, you'll help boost that renown multiplier in game. So yeah, anyone that's trying to reach 100 can quite easily, hopefully quite easily do so. But otherwise, we'll just be doing a lot of activities on social. So we'll be releasing like shot frames themed around Community Day for people to get involved in, challenge cards like we like to do, and awarding a lot of hats.
Yes, funny hat time.
People like the hat. The Be More Pirate hat. As we did with last Community Day, we'll be looking for a lot of people to just, nominate players that might not necessarily put themselves in the limelight a lot, or looking for players just to share their mad ideas. Because obviously we like to highlight people every couple of weeks that we do award with hat, but there are a lot more pirates than that we want to award the hat that maybe just like slip through. So we use Community Day as a big opportunity to just celebrate a huge load of people and award lots of hats. So yeah, that's not the extent. There's going to be a Pirate Emporium sale. Yeah. There's going to be sale on our merch store. There's a lot going on. Twitch drops. That's your... Yes, true.
You missed it.
I'm sorry. Well, you don't check Twitter, so I... there's obviously activities going on with our partners as well. And if you follow our social channels, hopefully you will have seen all of this by now.
Yeah, there's loads going on. The hat drive's the one that I'm always really excited for.
Yeah.
I like seeing those people that are just out there doing cool stuff or things that we'd never thought of, which is going to be really interesting. That's always my favourite part.
And it's fun to just take a day to celebrate everyone and get really involved. So that was my favourite thing about the last Community Day before certain things happened, was that the morning was just full of everyone. Yeah, everyone was just so positive, and everyone was sharing stories and, amazing moments and getting in game, putting the flag up. And, we did like a fun challenge sheet of go and give another crew a pineapple of peace, and people posting videos of going and doing that. And again, it's sort of it's not obviously gameplay driven in the same sense as something like Hungry and Deep or Shrouded Deep, but it's fun to have these moments in time where we can just see the seas be a lot friendlier just for the duration and everyone just enjoying the vibes of the day. Yeah. So, yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to it. Now that I know it's on the 14th of May. Just dump that over the previous bit where I messed up. Sorry, Christina.
Players should never, all of our players, all of our community should never underestimate just the buzz that gives us in the studio. And the last Community Day, the following week, after the Sunday, everyone in the studio was just talking about all the amazing stories they'd seen the previous day. And it just gives us so much energy to keep making this game and motivate to keep pushing, because those stories mean the world to us. So can't wait for the next one. It's awesome.
It's on the 14th of May.
On the 14th of May.
Wait, you see, we'll moved it a week or something by the time this comes out. But no, thank you very much for watching. That's us come to the end there. I know, it was fast, wasn't it? So... Thank you very much for watching, everybody. And if you have been watching us and you want to listen to us again, I will remind you that we're available on all podcast apps. Remember, if you want your question asked next time that you're on here, then SOT Podcast on Twitter.
It's the best place to go.
It's a better place to go, because that's where we look. That's where they look for the questions. So if you can get that over to us, and just thank you for everyone joining us here in the studio today, and then thank you for everybody at home for also listening in, and we will see you next time, which will be a little bit longer. Next time it won't be the usual kind of monthly games, will be a little bit longer than usual, and we will see you in June. Take care, folks. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you just saw and want to stay up to date with all the latest Sea of Thieves news, then hit subscribe and click that little ship's bell for all those notifications. Cheers.